He pitched 242 potential backers. 217 of them said no. Not maybe, not come back later, just no. And yet in 1987, he raised what he needed, bought the assets of a tiny coffee company with 6 Seattle stores, and took control of the name that would become Starbucks. That's the part people love to repeat, the win. But the real story lives in the rejection before the win. When you're still the outsider, still unproven, still hearing no from people who sound certain. Howard Schultz grew up in Brooklyn in a working-class family, in an environment where stability could vanish overnight. When he was a kid, his father was injured on the job and lost work. Schultz has said that moment burned a lesson into him. Hard work doesn't guarantee security, and when there's no safety net, one accident can change everything. It also shaped a conviction he carried for decades. If he ever built a company, he wanted it to treat people with dignity. In 1982, Schultz joined Starbucks. At the time, Starbucks wasn't a global cafe brand. It was a small Seattle business known mostly for coffee beans and equipment. Serious coffee, not a lifestyle. Schultz was good at spotting patterns, and he noticed something that didn't make sense. Starbucks was ordering an unusual number of espresso machines. He wanted to see why. Then in 1983, a trip to Milan rearranged his entire vision. In Italy, coffee wasn't just caffeine. Espresso bars were alive. Quick conversations, familiar faces, a sense of belonging. People didn't just buy a drink. They returned for the feeling, a third place between home and work. Schultz came back convinced America didn't simply need better coffee. It needed that experience. So he pitched it. Espresso drinks, cafe counters, baristas, the smell, the ritual, an atmosphere people would build into their daily routine. But the founders didn't want Starbucks to become that yet. Their identity was beans and retail. His idea wasn't wrong, it just didn't fit their plan. And that's a special kind of rejection, because it sounds reasonable, while it quietly shuts the door on the thing you can already see in your head. Schultz had a choice: stay comfortable inside the existing model, or walk out and bet his future on a vision no one had validated. So he left. In 1985, he started Il Giornale, an Italian-style coffee bar concept built to prove the cafe experience could work in America. And then reality hit. Belief doesn't pay rent. Proof does. He had to raise money, convince strangers, and keep showing up after rejection. In his memoir, Schultz described talking to 242 people while fundraising and hearing no 217 times. Imagine what that does to your confidence. Not once, not twice, over and over, until you start wondering if the room is right about you. Still, Il Giornale opened, and it worked. Customers came back. The idea held up in real life. And once you have proof, everything changes, because now the no isn't about possibility, it's about control. Then the board shifted. In 1987, the founders decided to sell Starbucks' name, roasting plant in 6 Seattle stores. Schultz moved fast. By August 1987, he had raised $3.8 million. Il Giornale acquired Starbucks assets and adopted the Starbucks name. The guy who couldn't get permission to build the cafe experience inside Starbucks came back with evidence and bought the whole game. From there, Schultz committed to the cafe model and scaled it. Starbucks grew rapidly, expanding far beyond Seattle, and it went public in 1992. The brand became a daily ritual for millions. But the reason this story sticks isn't coffee, it's identity. Because the real enemy wasn't a single person, it was a message. You're not the type, not the right background, not the right profile, not the one who belongs in that room. Schultz heard versions of that and kept moving anyway, long enough to replace doubt with proof. And notice the pattern. The first no didn't stop him. The second didn't either. What almost stops people is the 100th. When rejection turns into a story, you start telling yourself, maybe I'm not built for this. Maybe they're right. Schultz kept going through that phase because he wasn't chasing a trend. He was chasing a vision he couldn't unsee. That's why the Starbucks story is really a belonging story. A kid who felt the world could pull the floor out at any moment, building a place designed to feel steady, warm light, familiar faces, a routine you can count on. For more true business stories like this, subscribe. If this hit you, like the video and see you on the next video.